Welcome to Make Today Count, your 60 minutes of fresh conversation served up to inform, educate and inspire your personal brand. I'm your host Ross Dean, and each episode I chat to thought leaders, influencers and experts in their game who all have one thing in common: the desire to go the extra mile, pushing against the status quo to create a richer life for both themselves and those around them. Powered by compassion and driven by the need to leave the world that little bit better than when they arrived. Okay, hi guys, and welcome back to Make Today Count. Another fantastic guest for you today in Sophie French. Sophie, how are you?
I am really well. Thank you, Ross. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Your voice is really relevant to me this week because I've been listening to your meditations and your affirmations in readiness for our conversation today, and which has been really great. I think today we're talking about becoming unshakable in business and around about self-confidence and all that kind of stuff. And what was really surprising is a lot of the affirmations that I was listening to this week, I think they're really prevalent in what we're speaking about today. Is it something that your clients find useful when they're kind of working with you?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's really all about the power of our minds and how we have so much control over essentially what we're feeding them with. So naturally thinking about things that are feeding our mind with positive things are a really supportive pillar of the work that I do with clients.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually, because I know that a lot of the work that you do is are with women and with ladies, and then I was listening to some of the audios, and I can't remember the exact words, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like "you are a confident woman" or something like that, and I was just saying,
Yes.
I am a confident woman. So it's really,
yes, it's like that scene in Friends with Chandler or Joey, I think, listening to the audio. So yeah,
but they were really great, and I encourage anyone to kind of hop on over to the website and check those out. If people haven't come across the work that you do, Sophie, can you just give us a bit of a background about kind of how you got to where you are today and how you help your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So I am an NLP Master Practitioner and an EFT practitioner. And essentially what that means is I support creative business owners to back themselves instead of attack themselves, and essentially to get out of their own way. So all of the mean voices that they have in their head, all of the reasons that they tell themselves as to why they can't do the things that they most want to do, I support them to unpick those, deprogram all of those negative conditionings that they've received so that they can achieve their goals, achieve the things that they set out to do. And we do that through working on the mind and reprogramming these and old times, how to really deprogram those things as well. So yeah, that's a little bit of a rundown.
And is that an area of work that you've always been in, or is it something that's developed more recently? Or?
So I have been in this particular work for about 5 years, was when I first trained in coaching and in NLP. Alongside that, I started out in my business as a copywriter and marketeer. And it really came about that I was discovering that people could have all of this incredible copy, they could have all of the strategy and all of the marketing tips, but if they weren't believing in themselves, if they weren't feeling confident, if they didn't have the belief in themselves to put themselves out there, then it was kind of wasted. They weren't essentially putting themselves out there in that way. And that's where I really began to see some really common problems and a really common gap between having all of the strategy, but then still not doing the thing that you want to do, still not achieving the thing that you want to achieve. And it's there that my passion essentially around the mindset piece and the confidence piece was really proven.
That's such a great point, because I think, anyone starting up a business or working through their business, we get people on board to help us with all these different things, from copywriting to web design to, all these different things. But that last piece of the
Mm.
puzzle, I guess, is once your shop's up and running, as it were, you've then got to go
Mm-hmm.
out into the world and kind of use that. So it's such a, I guess, a wise investment at the end, isn't it? Because you can have all your ducks in order, but then not have
Yeah.
the I guess the confidence to go out there, and if you haven't got that, all the rest of the
Mm.
stuff that you've put into place, I guess, is a little bit wasted.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's the piece that a lot of people miss, essentially, that they think it all
Mm.
begins when the website's ready to go, when everything looks beautiful, when the copy's perfected. But actually, that's just the beginning, because then you actually have to sell yourself. Then you actually
Yeah.
have to put yourself out there in a way that you perhaps haven't ever known how to do. And with that, it can bring up a lot of our stuff, essentially, a
Mm.
lot of our old things that we didn't know were in there.
Yeah, because I guess, when we think about maybe why our business isn't progressing at the speed or the rate that we want it to, I guess we immediately think that it's something to do with the business, but sometimes it's not. Perhaps it's something to do with our own kind of mindset and our own learnings up until that point.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I would always say that anything that we are not seeing in our experience, that we're not having, so anything that we want that we don't currently have,
Mm.
there is generally a limiting belief or a story that we're telling ourselves going on underneath that tells us why we can't have it, because otherwise we would have the thing already. So it's a really great place to start asking questions of, it's what if it's not about the business? What if it's something that I'm perhaps believing or attracting or creating that is actually needs a little bit of work here instead?
Mm. And I guess you work with, lots of different people in all different kind of walks of life and stages of their business. But essentially, why do people come to you, Sophie, for help with what they're doing?
Yeah, yes. So lots of different stages of business, but essentially it comes down to, yes, they've tried all the things, they've tried the strategies, or they're at a specific place in their business, but they know that they want to go further and they're just not sure how to do that. They're not
Mm.
sure what it is that they're doing that's holding them back, but they've just got this sense that I know I can do bigger, I know I can make a greater impact, but I'm not doing it, and I'm standing in my own way, and I don't know why or how, but I need some support to get out of that. Or they are experiencing success, so on paper everything's looking incredible,
Mm.
but they're feeling very unfulfilled, they're feeling exhausted, potentially burnt out, and it's like, I can't keep making this sacrifice, something needs to give, and usually they feel like it's them that needs to give, which is never a good place to be in for business. So essentially, when people just are reassessing where they are at and what they need to do to change something, is when they will kind of get in touch and come to me for help.
Mm. And I think, we're in a stage at the moment where, a lot of the parts of the world are in lockdown still. There's a lot of people in business that maybe they've started their business before the lockdown period, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe, the lockdown period has given people opportunity to kind of take a step back from, looking at what they've been doing up until now, and maybe, reaffirming what they want to do in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And, for a lot of people, it's kind of an uncertain time, and kind of
Mm.
this phrase of self-belief, I guess, it means a lot of different things to different people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
With the people that you work with, and from your experience, what essentially does this kind of self-belief mean to you, Soph?
Yeah, really great question, because that's it. Self-belief can be this very elusive term, right?
Mm.
It's like, what does
Yeah.
that actually mean? You can't just just believe in yourself and everything will be okay. So to me, self-belief means having a trust in yourself, being able to trust your own decisions, being able to trust your own intuition, your own visions, and to believe in yourself enough that you actually take the steps to make it happen. So it's really about, you know, not putting out your decisions to other people, not putting your feelings out to a judgment panel, asking friends what they think you should do, asking other people about where you should go or what's right for you, but rather cultivating a trust in yourself that allows you to know what's right for you, allows you to know when things don't feel right, and essentially living your life and running your business from that place of knowing I trust myself, and I know that even if I can't see how right now, I know I'm going to be able to figure it out. And I think that's such a vital thing for right now, exactly as you're saying, that, you know, things are uncertain and things have changed drastically for many, many people. But that element of self-belief is not knowing how, but trusting that they will find a way to figure this out in a way that's best for them.
Yeah, that's such a great point. You know, it's kind of like a muscle, I guess, isn't it? Because, you know, we always kind of, maybe when we're starting a business or we're planning any change in our life, we kind of want that kind of validation, I guess, from others, and
Yeah.
that in itself can often be stopping us, either by way of the people that are feeding back to us don't necessarily agree with what, you know, our intentions are,
Mm-hmm.
and it must be tricky for the people that you work with to kind of, before they come to you, kind of navigate through some of that stuff, because in a lot of circumstances they haven't experienced that before. It's learning something new, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. You know, we are conditioned from a very young age to look to other people for approval and for validation. You
Yeah.
know, at school, we need to ask our teachers to mark our work to tell us that we've done a good job. And then we perhaps go into a career with which we rely on a manager to do the same. And so we're essentially taught that you have to look to other people for approval. And really, when we work together, it's about really reprogramming those stories and getting back into practicing how to be in tune with yourself, how to rely on yourself, and how to believe that your decision is the one that's best for you, how to believe that you know you way better than anyone else.
Yeah. And I think probably for a lot of people that are listening to this, you know, they may have aspects, maybe now or in their past, whereby they know that this is something that they need to work on. But you know, as we know, we're all human, and we all go towards things that are more comfortable than things that are going to be more challenging. Why is it you think that even though we know some of this stuff and we know we need to work on some of this stuff, we kind of put it back on the back burner, as it were, and think that, oh, it's all going to work out okay, it's all going to be okay?
Yes, really great question, because that's it. You know, as humans, we want to avoid change at most costs. We want to avoid things that are uncomfortable, that are going to take us out of our comfort zone, because by design that is uncomfortable. And so, you know, to cultivate a more self-confidence, more self-belief, it requires doing the hard work. It's hard because it means we have to look at the things that we don't like. It means we have to first look at the things that aren't feeling good. We really have to look at the sometimes really mean stories that we've been telling ourselves, the really hard experiences that we might have lived. And as humans, we generally spend our lives avoiding having to look at those, having to think about them, and having to talk about them. And I think that's why we find a lot of resistance in doing that kind of work, because, you know, there's a lot of talk about just be positive and just think positively, and, you know, that's all great, but we can't truly do that unless we've looked at the negative, the hard stuff, the darker stuff first. And so I think that's that's where the resistance comes. I know even with myself, I do this work all the time, and you know, it's become my life now, and I will still just have those days of like, I know what I need to do, but I don't want to go there. Please don't make me go there. So yeah, that's definitely where it comes from, I would say.
Yeah, and I know in my own experience as well, you know, in times when what was really surprising to me is that in some times when we're not doing stuff, we're not doing it because we gain comfort from not doing it, if that makes sense. So that was something that I hadn't really come across, and it kind of blew my mind a little bit in that, you know, from me not doing certain things in the past, there was some like secondary gain around that. And that was pretty mind blowing at the time, because it's like, I should be doing this, I should be doing this, I should be doing this, but why aren't I doing that? And oh, it's because I'm getting some benefit off not doing that. And that was huge.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's so much power in our awareness of that as well, that every behavior that we do has a positive intention, has a second, and knowing that means we can give ourselves a little bit of a break. You know, we can often beat ourselves up quite a lot for, I know I should be doing it, but I'm not doing it. And actually, when we can go, there's got to be a reason why I'm not doing the thing, we can just let ourselves off the hook.
Definitely. You know, for a lot of this kind of work, and I'm guessing you see it in many of the people that you work with as well. And if people are kind of listening to this and they're kind of thinking, you know, this is stuff I need to do, and you know, it's often about just leaning into the situation and just taking that step out. What do you think people are missing out of when they're not kind of leaning in and they're not kind of working on some of this stuff, from, I guess, the experiences that you've had with clients?
I really believe that it's the key that unlocks anything that you want to experience in your life, in your business, in your personal relationships. Essentially, it all comes back down to us and us working on ourselves. So I would definitely say, if there's anything that you feel needs to change, or that you want to move through or make a transition in, it, you know, taking the time and spending the energy to work on you, to really self-analyze why you make certain choices, why you behave in certain ways, why you hold yourself back in certain ways. These questions that we ask of ourselves are some of the most powerful questions you can ever ask, because they change everything.
No, definitely. I think, you know, often is the case where we kind of tell ourselves a lot of reasons why we can't do some of this stuff, and maybe some sort of myths around that. Maybe I don't have time, I don't have the skills, I don't have the funds. You know, what are some of the common things that you hear when maybe you're having consultations with people, and kind of how can we kind of get our heads around that and kind of go off in a more positive direction?
I mean, those that you've said essentially are such big ones, that these excuses that we tell ourselves, that I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't have resources to do the things that I want to do, and so I'll just write that off. But really, those are excuses. Those are just masks for actually what's going on underneath, which might be, I'm afraid of doing it, or I don't know where to start, or I'm not sure I'm cut out for it. So with all these things that we tell ourselves, there's often something bigger driving that underneath, be it fear, or be it just not thinking that we're good enough, is essentially what's always lurking quietly underneath. But really, it's actually questioning those things, because, you know, a lot of people will say, I don't have the money to do that, and yet then go out for 3 dinners a week and spend however much they want to spend. And the same with, I don't have the time, and yet hours of a Sunday might be spent watching Netflix. And really, it's a chance to ask yourself, is that the truth? Is this excuse as to why I'm not doing this thing, is that really what's going on? Or do I perhaps just not have all the information? Do I perhaps have an underlying fear that this isn't going to work out, and so why would I bother? So it's always worth questioning ourselves essentially with everything that we tell ourselves, is asking, is that actually true? And what might be more true? What might be more supportive for us to do the thing that we want to do?
And often when you're kind of going through this, it is helpful to have someone else to kind of guide you and assist you along the way. And whether that's a family member or someone that you trust or a coach in the work like, that you do. What have you seen, if people can kind of push through some of this stuff, what have you seen to be the long-term sort of business benefits of people that you've worked with in the past?
Yeah, lots of incredible benefits from, the things that we want a lot of in business, which can be things like more money and more opportunities, more collaborations with the people that we most want to work with. Like, clients seem to very quickly create the things that they want to create once they give themselves some focus, and once they really have me challenging them on the beliefs that they're making. Because if we're telling ourselves that we can't do something, then we're not even going to try. And so a lot of the time, shifting those things will unlock like a domino effect of all the things that you want to create. And also just being really honest with themselves about what it is they actually want for their lives and for their businesses. So I work with a lot of people who are working in a business, and they've essentially created a exhausting 9 a.m. till 11 p.m. for themselves, and it's just not feeling good, and they're not feeling fulfilled. So enabling them to actually think about, what do they want to bring to life? What do they actually now want business and life to look like? Remembering that it's their name above the door, that they get to make the decisions, that they get to choose it in the way that they want, and how they navigate that as well. And an example of this is a client that I was working with, who she worked in a high level fashion house in Paris, and was, on paper everything looked successful, but just wasn't feeling fulfilled. And once we looked at what her actual vision was, because she knew she wanted to do something else, but she didn't know quite what that was, and she was thinking very logically about, what could that be? What could make me money? And it was coming from a place of like just trying to find something. When we actually went into her vision, how did she see her life? What did she want that to look like? It was then she started talking about that she saw her kids being out in the countryside, that she was with her partner, they were doing something together, and she was building this vision. And from there sparked this light bulb of that her and her husband had always talked about, buying a B&B in the countryside. And 18 months later, they got the keys, and they now do that. They've transformed their lifestyle and how they live, and have created a business on that basis. And that really began with her giving herself permission to think, what do I actually want to do? What do I actually want my lifestyle to be? Because from there, we all know, once we've got that drive, we figure it out, and we will do everything that we want to get what we want. But it has to start from allowing yourself and giving yourself permission to think about that, and giving yourself permission to actually go, okay, if there were no limits, what could this look like? And that is where we find our drive, our motivation, and our confidence to make things happen.
That's amazing. And that's all, for her, that was just around kind of, resetting and visualizing where she wanted to be. And I guess it all kind of spurned from there. And it just proves that, what we focus on kind of expands in that way, isn't it? If we're focusing on all the stuff that's not going right, then we're going to get more of that. By way, if we that was actually one of the, I think it was, is it your Activate Your Dream Life? That was one of your visualizations that I did. And that was all about picturing that, your perfect day, and going into that scene, and that, why is that so powerful? If we're in a state of, lack, why is that so powerful? Visualization to put us in the best place to achieve some of these goals?
Yeah, it is so powerful, because essentially when we're in that, we are programming our minds with what we actually want. So our conscious mind is constantly looking for danger, for all the things that are going to go wrong, which is evolution and natural for us to do as humans who want to survive. But when we allow ourselves to drop into a visualization, this activates our subconscious mind, the part of us that knows what's possible, the part of us that really knows what we truly want, what is authentic to our desires and who we want to be and how we want to live. And when we give that place a space to breathe and to bring things to life, it is that really sparks that. And from a practical and scientific point of view, we have a part of our brain called our reticular activating system, which is essentially our inner sat nav. And just like when we get in a car to go on a journey, we would put in the postcode to take us where we want to go. Our sat nav in our minds works in the same way. We need to give it a destination so that we know where we're going. And visualizing is a really powerful way to activate that, to really program that with our postcode of here's where I want to be. And our subconscious mind's job is to get to work to make it happen. So it's really powerful to be really vigilant and really focused on where it is that I want to go, because then your subconscious mind can get to work in making it happen. And then you know where to put your focus as well.
That's a really great point. And I think, there may be some people listening saying, that's, I'd love to get to that point, but maybe I'm in a situation whereby I keep kind of dipping back into thoughts of kind of low confidence, or my surroundings are triggers to some of these thoughts. How do we kind of manage these kind of thoughts of low confidence and kind of get ourselves back on that route for that sat nav?
Yes, a great question. So it's first of all really important for us to remember that, if you were to imagine, like, we have these meeting rooms in our minds, and meeting room 1 is the vision, is activating like the things that we want. Meeting room 2 is where the limits sit, where the inner critic is, and meeting room 3 is the logistics, the how do we make this happen. And this is actually a strategy that Disney is said to use, and all of how they brought everything to life is that they only sat in those meeting rooms, and the people in those meeting rooms were not allowed to sit together, because you can imagine what happens when all of those people try and have a conversation. They're at very different places. But actually that's what's going on in our brains all the time. We're trying to dream something, but very quickly meeting room 2 comes in and says, well, you can't do that because this. And then meeting room 3 comes in and says the same. So the first thing is to separate those rooms and to really become aware of when you are doing those things. So the first thing is allowing yourself to have that vision. But yes, then those voices come in very quickly and say that's not possible for you, or you can't make that happen. And so a really great way to manage this is to ask questions of yourself, like, who says, and what evidence do you have of that? Because our brain loves evidence, and it will look for what we ask it to. So if we imagine we have a librarian in our brain, that whatever we ask of it, it will go and find the answers. So if we are asking, why can I never do this? Then our brain, the librarian in our head, will go, well, here you go. Here are all the reasons from the past X years of your life why you can't do this and why you can't make it happen. So when we just do some little shifts in our language and ask questions of ourselves, such as, how could I do this? Then we get to get better answers of ourselves. We get to start seeing things revealed to us that give us some more direction. And so it's a really simple shift in what we're asking of ourselves, but it means we get again, what we focus on, we get more of. And it's exactly the same in that. When we focus on those better questions, we get better answers that support us. So if we have those negative thoughts, it's really checking in with, how true is this? And also, what questions could I be asking myself with which I will get a better, a more resourceful answer?
And in your experience, is it best to just deal with these things as and when they come in, or is it better to kind of build it into kind of like a daily practice around, I don't know, meditation or something like that? What have you found to be most effective?
Yes. So I guess the first thing is that when I share about this work with people around their limiting beliefs and what comes up, I often see a rabbit in the headlights look of like, oh my goodness, I've got loads of those. Like, how would I ever get through them? And so the key is, we don't want to have to go in and do like a lobotomy on everything that you've ever experienced. But it's first of all asking yourself, what direction do you want to go in? What do you actually want? And then asking, what stops you from having that now? And there will give you the beliefs, the limits, the negative voices to work on in this moment. So it's about, where is it that you're heading? What's stopping you? And what do you need to work on right now? And in addition to that, as our mind is like a muscle. So in the same way that we wouldn't just go to the gym for a day and expect to have a six-pack, which is really devastating news, but it is, that's how it goes. And our mind works in exactly the same way. So we have to be training it. We have to be training that muscle that gives us that confidence. So I definitely recommend every morning to be doing something for yourself that boosts your confidence, or that brings you back to yourself, so you're in a position of making good choices, making good decisions. So definitely things like meditation, like visualization. I do a lot of breath work, which is more of an active meditation. Tapping, EFT, is something I do most mornings to just get myself in a good state. Anything that helps you to feel more confident, and most importantly, that isn't scrolling on Instagram before you've had your morning wee. Something that brings you back to yourself, what you want, and working on that muscle in the same way as you would a workout.
I think that's a really important point, because, we can kind of go on Instagram, we can look on different things, and there's a lot of things that are said, you should do this, you should do that, but it's different for different people. I don't know if you'd agree. And, there are certain things that would bring you joy, then it would bring me joy, then someone else, joy as well. So it's just, I guess, taking some time out for yourself and just working out what that would mean for you. And kind of building that in. And I know from personal experience, a lot of this stuff has kind of this holistic effect. So, you think it's going to have benefit in one direction, but as and when you start to build that muscle, it has lots of different things that you just never would thought, would come out of it.
Yeah, definitely. That's totally it. It's just it's so powerful to do. And for us to remember that we do get to take back control. We can feel like our monkey minds are in control of us, but there's so much power when we recognize, actually, I am in control of this, and what do I need to do to bring that back? Because exactly as you say, once you do that, if you can really take back the reins on those mean voices in your head, on how you see yourself, that changes every area of your life completely.
No, definitely. If someone's listened to this and they think, the time is now, maybe this podcast has been a trigger for them to sort of spring into action, and maybe they were looking to maybe work with someone, what would your advice be to someone that's kind of looking for a coach to work with around some of this stuff?
Yeah, I would definitely say that looking for someone that really aligns with you, so that seems to have similar values to you, that perhaps talk about things that really sparks something in you, that you listen to them or you listen to what they have to say and it really resonates within you. You'll know if something that someone is saying is really calling you and speaking to you. So really looking for that, what feels right. And also I would say, I mean, my personal strategy, I always want to see what other people's results have been, what other people have reviews on, because I think there's a lot to be said for that. You know, you want to know that someone has had results for people, that has made a difference to people. So having a look at what are people saying about that person, that coach, what are other people's experiences, is also a really great thing to look for.
And I guess if someone hasn't worked with a coach before, Sophie, and they're kind of thinking about it, what are the kind of steps that you would take someone through when working on them? I guess it kind of starts with a consultation or something like that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so we have an initial consultation to really get down to the crux of what is holding them back. So one of my superpowers is essentially looking at what is showing up in someone's life or business right now, and getting them to take me through kind of a picture of their life or how things are, and looking at what patterns are showing up. Where is this showing up in every area? Where has this been showing up in their life this far? And piecing those things together. And then I'll almost give a bit of a prescription essentially on, right, here are the things that I'm hearing are priorities to work through and to release and to support you with. And it would just be a real breakdown on, these are the key areas, because generally we have like 3 to 5 core beliefs or core experiences or core things that are holding us back in anything that we're doing. So once we can get to the crux of what those are and clear those out, then that has this ripple effect into everything. So yeah.
And is that usually on a
consultation? And then, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, is that usually on a kind of a one-to-one basis, or is it in groups, or how do you usually work it?
Yeah, so a variety of ways. A one-to-one coaching happens a lot, and group programs I do as well, and also retreats. So it's kind of a real mix, and it depends on like the intensity or how immersive you want the experience to be. Yeah.
Perfect. So, the podcast is called Make Today Count. And the reason for that being is that I wanted people to kind of get into conversations, maybe things that they were having challenges with. And from that conversation, take away advice that they could kind of the next day sort of spring into action with. And we've spoken today about how, when we're trying to work through some of this stuff, it's important to take small steps rather than trying to fix everything in one foul swoop. If there was someone listening to this now who thinks, this is something I really need to work on for my business, what could be that one small step to kind of get them off from feeling a little bit overwhelmed to maybe a small step to getting where they want to be?
Yeah, great question. I would definitely say it is around questioning the stories that you're telling yourself that are getting in the way right now. Essentially putting your mean voice on trial and asking yourself, what is it that I want? What stops me from having it now? And what is the truth around that? How much of that is true? And actually, what evidence do I have of the opposite? Because even doing that very small step and a small self-analysis, we get to see, actually, that's absolutely not true. I can totally make this step. I can totally make this work. And really getting clear for themselves on what is one small thing that can take me towards the thing that I want to do, because that in itself is different for everyone. But when someone takes the time to ask themselves what they need to do, that is when they can make that happen. That is when they realize they are actually more in control of the situation than they were perhaps thinking. And it starts with taking a bit of time to be quiet with ourselves. You know, we live in a very busy, very distracted world, and we don't always feel like we have the answers. But if we just get a little bit quiet, give ourselves the space and time that we deserve to ask these questions of ourselves, we all know the answers every single time as to what is next. And it just requires a little bit of that trust in yourself.
And just don't be too hard on ourselves, I guess, as well.
Absolutely.
You know, you've got lots going on at the moment, Sophie, with working with clients and plan retreats and all that kind of stuff. Anything new that's coming up that you want to kind of mention today? Anything that you've got that's exciting?
Yes, so exciting. Yes, I am running a 4-week training program which starts in the next couple of weeks, called the Self-Belief Sessions. And essentially I'll be taking a group through where to start on these practices that I talk about, where to start when it comes to getting out of your own way, releasing that mean voice, and essentially selling yourself online with confidence, because it's really down to the fact that if we are not sold on ourselves, it's going to be very difficult to sell the thing that we want to. It really comes down to us. So yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Perfect. And where's the best place for people to go and find out more about that? Over on the website, or?
Yes, over on the website at sophiefrench.co/self-belief.
Perfect. And we'll put all those links in the show notes as well, so you can click through and get those as well. Sophie, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. I always like to finish off by just giving out some gratitude. So thank you so much for the work that you do. It's easy to see from your socials, from Instagram, from the lives that you do and all the interactions, you know, how many people you are helping all over in different stages of their lives. Whether it's from, you know, personal things they're struggling with, or starting a business, or maybe re-navigating the business that they're already involved with. So thank you from everyone that works with you, and appreciate the work that you do in the world. So thanks.
Thank you. That is so kind, and that is really lovely to hear. I will take that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Guys, what we'd really love how has this conversation resonated with you today? So if there's anything that's kind of any light bulb moments, we'd really love to hear from you. So make sure you get in touch via Instagram or wherever else you find your connections, either with myself and with Sophie as well. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. And also remember that we have the Elevate community over on Facebook, whereby if you're looking for a safe, proactive area of the internet where you can join other people looking to create a fantastic personal brand, you'll be most welcome. But until next time, I've been Ross Dean. This has been Make Today Count, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.